Howdy guys, Attorney Walter Knott. Just wanted to go ahead and get it started as quickly as we can. Let's go through this because I want to go through some really incredibly important things that are on the horizon. Yes, you did hear news about there being difficulties with Medicare, specifically 2026, 2027, being kind of a timeline where they have to go ahead and legislate to save Medicare. Yes, that is true. Yes, we're going to be going into the other details as to the large trust funds in a different video, not this one. Right now, we're going to focus on the fourth stimulus at first. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Fourth stimulus check details for $2,000 petition, $1,000 for teachers and $600 for Californians. As you know, California is coming out with another one very shortly. Money is coming this month. This is from CNET Personal Finance. Clifford Colby and Laura Mitchell Davis wrote this. Let's go through it real quick. September 2nd, which means today it was written. Money is coming this month for families waiting on the next child tax credit payment and Californians who are getting a check. Here's the latest on the stimulus money coming your way. Here we go. Millions of families have received thousands of dollars from stimulus checks and child tax credit payments this year, but one check families likely won't get in 2021 is a fourth stimulus. So you heard that right. What they're saying is unlikely to have a federal fourth stimulus. I disagree, and here's why. Going into the 2022 election cycle, they're going to need to boost the Democratic base for Democrats to go ahead and make them look better from the whole Afghanistan ordeal. And for that purpose, you'll likely see Biden and VP Harris both standing behind some sort of federal stimulus going into the holiday season because they do not want people sitting there in the middle at the end of December going into January unhappy. Let's keep reading. They could, however, expect to get another stimulus payment for up to $1,400 if they've had a baby or adopted this year, but it probably won't arrive until 2022. So there you go. The main winners of this stimulus check system would be those individuals who essentially are having kids or adopting children. Other money coming includes supplemental plus-up payments from the IRS for owed stimulus amounts, as well as tax refunds on 2020 unemployment compensation. And soon, California residents will see another round of Golden State stimulus checks for $600 or up to $1,100, depending on what your status is. There are also 1,000 thank you payments going to teachers and school staff in several states, okay? It is interesting that we're not seeing that for also individuals that are in the sheriff's department, the police department, and stuff like that. Usually, historically, you would see that kind of stuff, but with what's going on politically, we're obviously not seeing that. With Congress now focused on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill and the $3.5 trillion federal budget package, remember, we got the House through on that. The Senate is not through on that yet. A fourth economic impact payment isn't on the short list of things to be approved, meaning the human aspect of the stimulus bill is not on the forefront, and it's just not super duper important to them at the moment. Let's keep rolling. Yet as households across the U.S. continue to confront financial insecurity and the Delta variant surges, there's certainly plenty of support for another stimulus payment. So they're saying, we've got some problems. Pandemic is getting worse in some states. I'm in one of them, Florida. And people are coming up to the holiday season. I'm starting to see a gross amount of, Halloween decorations already being put out. I have no idea what day Halloween's going to be, but the bottom line is I'm already seeing all that stuff being put out. We're going to be going into that. We're going to go into the Easter. We're going to be going into Christmas. People are not going to be able to pay their electric bill for all the extra light bulbs that they're going to be using for Christmas. So people are not going to be happy. So it is my opinion that you'll see probably another $1,400 check somewhere around the beginning of December or mid-December. Okay. Now remember, they're going to spread it. So it's not going to be like right before Christmas, right before Hanukkah. And the reason why is this. If they do that, people won't have time to go shopping. And have everybody going to the stores to buy things, and it'll just be a calamity. It'll be a huge, huge problem. Let's keep reading. All right, so Delta variant surge, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So as evidenced by a petition calling for 2,000 monthly checks that collected over 2.85 million signatures. Let's go through that again. That collected over 2.85 million signatures. Now, we'll explain the latest on stimulus money and other relief aid below. Here's how to check your tax refund if you haven't received it yet, and what you need to know about the unemployment tax break. Now, bottom line is this. There's a child tax credit. There's additional federal stimulus money. The third stimulus payments up to $1,400, which you could get through your IRS submissions, or they could send it back to you if you go ahead and submit your taxes. Stimulus payments to Californians. Yeah, they're getting the $600 boost. All right, that's basically it. We've gone through other stuff. Let's get to the next topic right now. The CDC when it comes to essentially people with disabilities. Now, let's talk about this real quick. COVID-19 has essentially affected disabled people more so than other special, groups. All right, and let's call it like it is. Disabled individuals are part of a group who is more likely to have potential problems with the COVID virus. Let me go why. Disability groups at risk. This is directly from the CDC Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is what they had to say. If you have one of the disability types listed below, you might be at an increased risk of becoming infected or having unrecognized illness. You should discuss your risk of illness with your healthcare provider. Here's what they listed. Number one, people who have limited mobility or who cannot avoid coming into close contact with others who may be infected, such as direct support providers and family members. Okay, that's number one. Number two, people who have trouble understanding information or practicing prevention measures, such as hand washing and social distancing. Okay. Number three, people who may not be able to communicate symptoms of illness. Okay. Now, they're missing a whole lot of categories here. And I know that they're just trying to make a cute little infomercial sheet with some basics on it. And I get that. That's fine. But there's a problem here. They're not really going into a lot of the details of those who have immune system problems. And I don't just mean in the sense of they get sick easily. I also mean in the sense of those who have something like lupus or some autoimmune disease that's attacking their own autoimmune system. This is an inherent problem for a lot of people because at the end of the day, they're more likely to get it and keep it for longer. Now, it goes through the basic things for disabled individuals about how you can protect yourself, prepare yourself. These are all very similar. But as a disabled person, you have to keep in mind, you are limited into how you can go ahead and interact with things. Some disabled people can't reach up high to get items that are up high. They might be in a wheelchair. They might not be able to lift their arms above their head. Some disabled people, no matter what they come in contact with, they constantly get sick from it. So they have to stay away from most people. So they'll have to go buy groceries either when most people aren't there and use a bunch of precautionary details, or they'll have to go ahead and basically just have it shipped right to their car. Somebody brings it out, they put it in the car, they put it in their house, or have it shipped right directly to their house. There's all these things that you should start considering as you go through this process to reduce the likelihood of getting COVID. Next thing, I'm going to talk about this. I know a lot of you guys are going to have some fiery comments about it. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Let's go into it. Here we go. There was an article written April 28th, 2020. Now, this was obviously before the Afghanistan fall apart, the debacle, the this, the that, etc., whatever you want to call it. It is an article specifically about disabled individuals that are living in Afghanistan. Let's talk about it real quick. Disability is not weakness. Discrimination and barriers facing women and girls with disabilities in Afghanistan. It's an article written about those individuals who are essentially in ... Afghanistan. Let's go through it real quick. Summary: the schools do not want girls with disabilities to go to classes. Usually they argue, and remember, this is like 2020. This is like a year ago, okay? In Afghanistan. This is pre-Taliban taking over. This is pre all that stuff. This is how it was. So a lot of people are like, oh, it was a Mecca. It was a Mecca of, a mirror reflection of America. Let's read through this real quick. The schools do not want girls with disabilities to go to the classes. Usually they argue that they are not normal people, so they cannot sit in the classrooms and learn like other students. Disability rights activist Kabul, April 2018. There's some interesting stats in here about Afghanistan disabled individuals. Okay, some time ago, my friends and I decided to go to the market in our own wheelchairs and shop ourselves, but people called us grasshoppers, which is why we decided to stay at home. So remember, in Afghanistan, having a wheelchair, a cane, a crutch, a walker, you're a target, okay? Afghanistan is one of the largest populations per capita persons with disabilities in the world. Let's read that again real quick. Afghanistan is one of the largest populations per capita persons with disabilities in the world. At least 1 in 5 Afghan households include an adult or child with a serious physical, sensory, intellectual, or psychological disability. More than 40 years of war have left more than 1 million Afghans with amputated limbs and other mobility, visual, and hearing disabilities. Many Afghans have psychosocial disabilities, mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress, which are often a direct result of the protracted conflict. Other Afghans have pre-existing disabilities not directly related to the conflict, such as those caused by polio. Remember polio? Yeah, you don't, because we don't have it here. Violent changes of power, long periods of contested government, endemic poverty, and widespread lawlessness, insecurity, and hostilities have undermined even minimal efforts by successive governments to conceive, adopt, and enforce policies to address the needs of persons with disabilities, even as this population has continued to increase. A massive internationally funded reconstruction effort that began in Afghanistan in 2002 offered, when America got in there, in 2002 offered a new opportunity to address this long-standing deficiency. The government has drafted important legislation and ratified core international human rights conventions, but its efforts to address even the most fundamental needs of this population for access to healthcare and education have fallen far short of promised goals. We're going to be doing a full article on that, but what I wanted to point out specifically about this particular system is that it is an interesting idea where we as Americans tend to think of, Americans who are disabled and it's really tough, etc. But the closest thing that we have to Afghanistan's disabled are vets that basically are veteran affairs gentlemen and women who have basically come back from some wartime event and been part of that conflict, and the resulting pain and issues that come from it have essentially caused them to become disabled individuals, whether they're missing an arm, whether they have PTSD, etc. Well, Afghanistan is filled with these types of individuals, but they don't have the same benefits as a VA person, and they don't have the same benefits of, for example, a person who needs medical treatment at a higher level, let alone for free. So I just wanted to point out very quickly, things are very different over there. And now with the Taliban taking over, it's going to be interesting to see the de-evolution, if you will, of those disabled individuals' rights. We're going to be doing a whole video on that. Finally, before we get to the questions and do the phone calls and make you guys happy, I wanted to know what the current commissioner of the Social Security Administration, it's right now acting, yada, yada, is going to be doing. So specifically, I will be attending virtually because I'm not flying up to Washington, D.C., I'm going to be attending the Robert M. Ball Award for Outstanding Achievements in Social Insurance 2021. They will be celebrating two particular individuals. Individual number one, Robert Greenstein, and then individual number two, KILOLO KIJAKAZI. Now, as you know, KILOLO KIJAKAZI is going to be our future Social Security Commissioner. Well, she is currently, but we'll be seeing more about her. We haven't been seeing much right now. There's just not much in the news going on. We don't know what's actually coming up. I want to let you guys know this is Tuesday, November 9th, 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. ET, okay, Eastern. And then remember, if you want to go in person, which I don't know if you will, you always can. It's at the Kennedy Center, River Pavilion, 2700 F Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., 20566. Virtual, you can zoom in. I think there is some sort of donation cost. I have to look at it. But this is basically what it is. Now, I'm hoping to attend this and get a little bit better understanding specifically as to the future of who our commissioner is going to be for Social Security benefits. Also, I'm going to be doing some more videos on the group that's sponsoring this whole thing, which is the National Academy of Social Insurance. I really like some of their articles. I do want to expand on some of them. Now, we're going to be opening everything up. It is 8:33 p.m. for people to be able to call in. I did miss some calls, so I'm going to check that out right now and go to the phone. You guys know how this works. We go ahead, we look at the phone, we see who's actually called, and then from there we go ahead and call people back. Let's see who's called over the past few moments. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Here we go. Let's call this first person right now and get the ball rolling. Okay, guys, we'll let them ring a couple of times, and then we'll go into it. While it's ringing, if you guys want to throw some questions up here, I can always take a look at it and then try and answer them while we're waiting for it to ring. All right, perfect. Okay, so. We'll wait now. Remember, hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to? Okay. So, yep, just remember to use that fake name. And also, would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run questions with you?
Well, I have one question that I'm curiosity, because every time I go online with the disability, I get different stories, 62, 5, and 7. I'm long-term disability. I've been on for a long time.
Sure.
And I'm 60. And I'm wondering, when does Social Security disability turn over to retirement? When I go online, some websites say 62, 5, and 7. And I'm confused. I'm just curiosity. When does that happen?
Wait, say it again, because the phone kind of cut out for me a little bit. What was the question again?
Okay, I'm on long-term disability,
okay,
and I'm 60 years old.
Okay.
And when I go online, I try to find out when Social Security disability returns into retirement, what year.
Oh, yeah.
And they say you got to be 62 on some websites, 65 to 67.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
confused. I don't know what year it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an easy one. No worries. So you're on SSDI, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to ride that.
Just show all the time.
Oh, yeah. What you're going to do is you're going to wait until basically you hit 66 or 67. Now, do you know what your full retirement age is?
Okay. So is that how that works?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you know what your maximum retirement age is? Like, is it 66? Is it 67?
I don't know. I'm 60 right now.
Okay, so what you're going to do is,
1960.
okay, you're going to stay on SSDI, and you will automatically be transferred from SSDI benefits over to retirement benefits once you hit that 66, 67 period, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't be penalized, basically, for taking retirement early, because you're not taking retirement at 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. You're taking it all the way at the end of 66, 67, which means that basically you're going to go ahead and switch from SSDI benefits over to your full retirement benefits, which is good. That's one of the little secret things that a lot of people don't realize, which is that when you become disabled in your 60s, you get to ride that puppy all the way to your full retirement and not get penalized for, basically having to take retirement early like most people do.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Well, you have yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a wonderful night, okay?
Yep, you too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Okay, guys, so real quick, I saw some questions there about Afghanistan. I'm going to go into those in a second. Real quick, we switched over from Google Voice, I did, and I love Google Voice, to Nextiva. We had a bunch of issues with Nextiva. Unfortunately, at the moment, we missed some phone calls and text messages on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We have now caught up with all the phone calls and the text messages that came in from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and almost all of Monday. We do, however, have to get back to some of the people on Tuesday and Wednesday, even though it's Thursday, to catch up with all of them, because the bottom line is we had so many phone calls on Wednesday and Thursday that we were able to get those done, but we weren't able to go back to the ones that were just uploaded to the Nextiva system for us to be able to see. So bottom line is, if you're one of those people, we will be calling you back for the Tuesday missed phone calls and Wednesday missed phone calls. All right, guys. Now, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and check the phone, see if there's anybody else. We didn't have a lot of people calling in this time, and it looks like we only had one. No, we had two. Okay, here we go. Let me get this one real quick. And no, it's the same person. Okay, cool. All right, so I see some people that called in before then, but they're in like the 6 o'clock period. All right, so guys, let's do this real quick. If you have any questions in the top chat session, or you want to call me and then go ahead and ask questions, I'm going to go ahead and put the phone number in there if you want to call me. That's fine. We did not, like last week, have a bunch of people pre-call, which is kind of nice. I did answer a bunch of questions throughout the week to try and alleviate people who are going to be calling in, but either way, here we go. All right, so let's see. Do you guys have any questions for me in the top chat session? And if not, I might actually get a little bit of a faster night tonight, and I can kind of talk about one thing that I have been focusing on, and then we can always transition away from that and basically go into me going to do other work. So, guys, if you have any additional questions or you want to call me, that's the spot. If you have any questions that you want to pin in, go ahead, and then we can always go from there. Now, with that said, while that's going on, I want to talk about this scary monster right here. So the deal is Social Security. What would happen if the trust funds were to run out? A lot of people think it's just like, boop, done. Nobody gets a check. That's not how it is. People would be getting a reduced check. The problem that we're facing is that a lot of people expect the federal agencies to be able to modify themselves, like the Social Security Administration, like the Federal Reserve, to be able to fix the problem, but they can't. They don't have the power to. Federal agencies do not have the power to create law. So what we're stuck with here is that basically the legislatures have to start to focus on this immediately. The number one thing that they're worried about, the senators, the House reps, Washington, D.C., is the government shutting down. And the reason they're worried about that is because it directly affects their ability to get their payment, their check, etc. So with that said, if it's shut down for a long enough period, with that said, they're going to vote in more debt ceiling capability to go ahead and keep paying for all the things that they want to pay for. Now, with that said, the next thing that they're going to be focusing on is passing an infrastructure bill. And then after that, they're going to be passing basically, another bill or two here or there before they get to the human stimulus bill. And then after that, I hope we will be getting to essentially this big issue. As you know, the largest groups in America can be summed up pretty easily, but those receiving retirement, those on SSDI benefits, those on SSI benefits, are some of the largest groups in America. What is kind of odd is that these groups do not have a singular bring together, voting platform, political platform, news platform. One of the things I'm going to be doing in the not too distant future is maybe one day where I just do a summary for the week of all the weird news things that affect disabled and retired individuals. Kind of like your disability or your Social Security benefits news update. The reason why is that a lot of people don't see what's happening or what happens throughout the days. And unfortunately, the problems, they're growing. They're bad. They're super duper bad. And what I'm really concerned about is that we are not legislating to create a system that will allow these trust funds to receive more investments than people are paying in. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, we pay in a lot of money for Social Security benefits, and we don't get that much back. But there's a reason for that. Let me explain why. When you pay in your Social Security benefits, there's also the potential of not only you receiving benefits, but also your kids receiving benefits, but also your spouse receiving benefits. And then basically, kind of snowballs from there. There's different options and different people that are somehow connected to you who could draw from your benefits. An example of that would be disabled adult child benefits. 18 to 22-year-old disabled. The parent is basically, passed away, retired, or disabled themselves, and they can tap into those benefits and get that rolling. And that's a big thing there, because that's a lot of money to the kid on top of the money that the adult is taking. So when you're sitting there going, well, I don't get why I pay in so much and I get so little out of it. Well, there's a reason for that, but that's not the big problem. The big problem is that this year, more people paid in. And the problem is that not enough money went in. And somebody was going, oh, but Bernie Sanders said, we got 2.2 trillion. Life is good. Yeah, we do, but that doesn't mean that we're okay. There is a giant graph. And the unfortunate thing about the graph, I'm not sure if it's in this article, is that we basically run into a little wall problem. And a lot of people think that essentially we are going to, be able to continue to do this and this and this. And then if we have one of these, which is what we're at right now, we're at one of these, that's just going to continuously go downward like that. But that's not how it works. Let me explain why this is such a dangerous thing. You guys think right now we're just going to slowly go down the ski slope, right, of not having enough money for these trust funds, right? That's essentially what most people think is going to happen. With that said, I need you to understand something pretty darn important. This ski slope doesn't gradually go down. When you pay in your money to the trust fund system, they take that money and they invest it. And a year later, they call upon it. And when they call upon it, that yearly, we invest, we get it back, we invest, we get it back, we invest, we get it back. It creates a slight boost in the benefits that are put into it. But there's not enough money to have long-term investment, only short-term single-year annual investment, which means that the moment we start running out of money, it becomes exponential. It grows and grows like a snowball rolling down the hill. So while it will seem like, hey, everything's okay, we're slowly going like this, all of a sudden it's going to dip. And it's going to go down very quickly. And that's because the investment is not going to be enough to keep up with the requirements of more people paying in. Let me kind of show you what's going to happen here. Benefits as a share of scheduled benefits 2020 to 2094. What's going to happen here is that you're just going to have this big dip, right? And then it's going to stabilize. Let me show you another one real quick, so you guys kind of get the idea here. You're going to get to a point where there's not enough and the investment isn't able to be made, and then boom, you're going to get hit with a giant dip. It's like a triple black diamond ski slope in Colorado. You're going from a green easy, and then boom, it dives. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody seems to really care about this. Bernie Sanders said all federal programs come from the taxation of working Americans. Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. They have to. We're the ones who create all the money. I mean, they create money in the sense of printing money, but we're the ones who actually create the work product to create money. We are the value machines. We are the little cows that work on the farm that create work product that they get to tax. The more taxation they get to do on us, the more starvation and strangulation we as Americans have, which makes them fat and happy and us skinny and sad. And as a result, what that causes is, unfortunately, the American population to hate the United States government more based on this whole pauper versus, ruling class sort of deal. And that's kind of what they are. I don't know if you guys ever thought about that, but Americans, we are essentially the working class. We are the paupers, working the farm. And then the ruling class people are the individuals that are part of the government. And they're, doing all these things to go ahead and where can we put their tax money? Where can we put this tax money? What pet project can we do? What do we have to fund this year? And then you have the super rich. Those are kind of like your dukes and your, royal members below the crown. And then, of course, you have the crown, which is like the president, those in the highest executive levels. Unfortunately, if we keep raising taxes, there will not be the incentive for people to work really hard. Some people are like, oh, that's a capitalism thing. It's actually not a capitalism thing. It's a basic human interest thing. And think about that. If you basically have weights on your shoes, and I said, okay, I want you to walk from here to, 400, 500 feet that way, pick up some water and bring it back. And then I'll let you have a sip of it, right? If you had very little weight on your feet, maybe you could do that if you weren't disabled in some way to limit your ability to walk. But when they add 10 pounds to your feet, taxation, 20 pounds to your feet, more taxation. When you get back to drink that water, you're not very happy because the amount of water that you get is not worth all the effort to walk all the way there and all the way back. Okay, so let's see. Lauren L. Jones, did you see, let's see where the phone is, what's happening in Australia? Trunkers are blocking to Sydney. Wonder how long it will take for the food to run out. Note they're protesting until they get their country back. There you go. I don't know what trunkers are, but hey. All right, so with that said, oh, I missed another call. Hold on. Okie doke. Let's see what we got here. Hold on. Perfect. Here we go. All right, guys, you know how this works. We're going to let this thing ring and basically get somebody on the phone, then we'll go from there. Let's see. All right. Okay, guys. Now remember, we go ahead, we let the phone ring, we answer it, and then we ask them if they want to do a question or run a hearing questions. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott, Disability Resolution PA. Remember to use a fake name, and also, would you like me to answer a specific question or run hearing questions?
I just got a question.
Sure, good sir. How can I help you?
I was just wondering if you recently were on SSDI, you just got it, and your wife was dependent before on your insurance. Is she able to somehow get insurance through you being on SSDI when you get Medicare?
I don't know. That's a good question. So what you're asking is, you basically got onto SSDI benefits, and I'm assuming your Medicare is already vested. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the question is, once after the 24-month waiting period, once the Medicare is vested for an SSDI Title II recipient, can the wife tap into the Medicare in some way, manner, or form? But sir, I don't really know the answer to that. I would have to go look that up. My initial reaction is probably for some things, but maybe not for everything. But I don't know. I'd have to go look that up. But that's a good question. I'm going to write that down and make a video on it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All righty, good sir. Yeah, so I know I can tell you're like saddened by this, but truth is, I don't know the answer to every question. And I know this. On this show, I tend to get basically all the questions that either other attorneys could not answer or, there wasn't an answer online about it. So I'd have to look up the statute. But let's do this. I'm going to write that down. Can wife tap into SSDI-based Medicare post-approval? And I'm assuming you want to know, like, what are the types of benefits that she can access, right?
Yes.
Perfect. It could be absolutely nothing. It could be maybe something. I'm not really sure, but I will look into it, good sir. All right.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Perfect, good sir.
Thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful night, okay?
You too. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, real quick, let me go ahead. And we did miss another call, but it was from a private caller, so I don't know who that was. Let's see. Now, that is a good question. While we're waiting for that private caller to go ahead and call us back, let me see if I can find the answer to that. Can a spouse, not just a wife, can a spouse, let's see if we can do a basic search. Medicare, benefits. Let's see. All right, so let's see from someone on SSDI. All right, and he's going to be entitled to SSDI. Okay, yes, if you are collecting Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, your spouse can draw a benefit on that basis if you have been married for at least one continuous year and he or she is either age 62 or older, or any age, and caring for a child of yours who is younger than 16 or disabled. So yeah, we actually learned something tonight, which is absolutely amazing. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name. And would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and basically run hearing questions?
Well, I had a couple of quick questions, if I could ask you. You did a video recently about one of the rule changes being about the weight of evidence law, about how they're no longer going to give the main weight of evidence for, you know what I'm trying to say. And I'm wondering, would that affect people on CDRs? Would that make it harder for people to continue benefits if their doctors are no longer going to have the same kind of weight?
So there are limited. Okay, so that's a really complicated question of when do we apply the 2017 rules for weight of evidence applied to, specialists versus, you're seeing versus the SSA MECE doctor, things like that. In most instances at this point, those rules would apply to pretty much all 8-step sequential process CDR-based claims going forward, which means that yes, it's one of it might be within the top. It is within the top 5 of very bad, horrible rules created under the Commissioner Saul era, which essentially limits how much worth of the evidence your doctors would have against the usually highly biased SSA physicians. And so, yes, there are instances where you could be going to a doctor for years. They send you to, at the SSA, a specialist, and that specialist gets equivalent weight or even more weight than the doctor you've been seeing for years. So yes, that would apply specifically to likely your situation going forward for your CDR application process, which, yes, could be an issue for you.
Is there any good news about that? Is there any way to combat that? I mean, I know the advice is always go to your doctors, but this sounds very discouraging to me. I'm wondering if there's any light at the end of the tunnel for this problem, because would you encounter it every time you have a long form CDR, or would you only encounter this problem if they say that you're getting better as a result of a long form CDR, or would this be something they would just automatically send you for a CE, even if you have a cooperative doctor who's filling out the form as accurately as possible?
So the regs specifically state that essentially if you have medical documentation which is thorough enough for them to have a full understanding of your conditions, right, which happens from time to time, then they will not feel that there's a need to send you to their CEME, their consultative examination medical expert. But they often take the advantage of that because their MECEs will tend to almost always be very pro-SSA and very anti-claimant, which means they send you to that. And if they're looking at this thing and they're like, could go one way, could go the other way, then they will obviously afford significant weight to that medical expert that they sent you to. Now, remember, you don't just have one person that's a medical expert type of individual reviewing your claim on the SSA side. A lot of people think there's only one ME. There's an ME usually, which is where you go see them. The ME, the medical expert, is where you're physically in front of them, unless you're doing this telehealth thing due to COVID. But usually you're seeing them. And then there's also the MCPC. The MCPC works with DDS, which is a medical consultant, to go ahead and review the medical documentation in total, and then advise the DDS rep specifically where the claim is against the listings, which is to compare your impairments against one particular impairment being severe enough versus the totality of the evidence exam for multiple impairments, which is where they consider all of your impairments combined to significantly, severely, or markedly, restrict your ability to do functional tasks in a vocational setting. So option one is they look with the MCPC at the medical expert report, and they look at all of your doctors, and they say, well, the medical expert said, you're not that bad, you're moderate. And then the medical consultant goes, considering that, and based on this, and a little bit of alcohol here, they come out with what's called DDE. DDE basically explains the analysis that took place for these doctors, the reports they wrote up, the summary, if you will, of the entire evaluation at the DDS level. DDS then takes the claim and basically sends it up to their manager. The manager then says, go fix this, or don't, or go bring it back to me, or go fix this, or basically we'll send it up. If they say they send it up and you're in the Florida area, it'll go to Georgia, sometimes to Falls Church, Virginia, for what's called quality control. If they send it up for quality control, it's usually an approval. If they just send it right back to the field office without sending it up for quality control, it's a denial. Now, here's what you need to know about the whole what's fair, what's not fair. It's not fair. It makes sense. You know, in January 2017, they changed it, but it makes sense that your doctor that you've been going to all this time essentially would be the one that would have controlling weight of the evidence. When they got rid of this rule, their main arguments were that they kept having a zillion claims go to appeals counsel based over the weight of the evidence rule, which was that, you know, too much weight was afforded to the evidence of the medical expert on behalf of the SSA and not on behalf of your seeing physician. But when they created this rule, they wiped that out. Now, attorneys don't use that because there's no point. You're not going to be successful with it. The other thing that they came up as to reasoning for it, which is the most bullcrappery version I've ever heard, and it is what it is. You know, they can make up whatever they want, even though they're not supposed to create law, but they can create Social Security, you know, rulings, SSRs, is that essentially medicine is not like it was back in the day. Go back to the 1950s, you had like your doctor, and that was your doctor for your town. Nowadays, you go and see all these different specialists. You have like your PCP, but he's constantly sending you out to this specialist or that specialist or whatever. There are some problems with this logic, aside from it being moronic to begin with. But let's just break it down like an onion that was melting to begin with and died a few weeks ago. First problem with it is that that's under the assumption that somebody has insurance and can go to specialists. Most homeless people, most low-income people, most middle-class people don't have insurance that has the capability of paying for all the specialists that they describe in their reasoning. So most people that are applying for disability benefits, being the middle class, the lower class, and the homeless, it doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for them. What you have is basically the upper, you know, echelon classes, which can actually afford that. So the grand majority of people fail the test, that which they set as the reasoning for this rule being necessary. The next problem with it is that they are giving a doctor, their doctor, this massive amount of power, right? Because this doctor sees you once, maybe twice, but usually only once. And the weight of their evidence is massive. It's huge. It's unfathomably massive when a person's life is on the line. And what are they doing? They're giving their doctor the ability in a short period. We're not talking 24 hours where they're reviewing you. We're not talking 12 hours where they're reviewing. We're not talking 6 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, not even 1 hour. We're talking 10 minutes to 30 minutes usually. We're giving that doctor the power, right? Because we allowed the SSA to create this through Commissioner Saul. We're giving that doctor the power to go ahead and essentially say what you are just from that meeting. Now, I tell every single claimant the same thing. When you go specifically to see a CE doctor, the first two questions out of your mouth are, number one, what medical evidence providers were given to you? Like what medical evidence facilities, right? So I went to this hospital, this clinic, this doctor, this specialist. What medical facilities, what medical evidence was provided to you, doctor, on behalf of the SSA, so that you could pre-review this thing, know it, and talk to me at a higher, more understanding of my issues level. And they'll respond, well, I just got this report, or I didn't get anything, or I got a lot of stuff, right? And I haven't had a chance to review it, or I have had a chance to review it. But you'll usually find that these doctors don't review much information ahead of time because the DDS rep will jump the gun and send you to the CE before they have a lot of the medical evidence in. And then some of them don't send that medical evidence off to the medical expert. Question number two, I always tell them that you have to ask them, what impairments are you reviewing today? If a physical doctor is talking about mental impairments, there's a problem. If a mental doctor is talking about physical impairments, also there's a problem. If you have a left arm problem and they're like, well, we're going to look at the right arm today, then somewhere along this whole thing, there was a miscommunication. If you're looking at these guys to go ahead and do one test for one thing, but they're not covering the other things that they should be, there's an issue. But remember, they're usually specialists and their specialty is very tiny, very tiny. So they're only reviewing you for that one little thing. And remember, a lot of these MEs will go ahead and write into their report specifically, hey, I'm going to give a vocational expert analysis as a medical expert. Well, that's wrong. The Social Security Administration says, oh, they're trained in it. But here's the problem. The Social Security Administration trains the medical experts into how to make vocational decisions on your medical abilities. But there's a problem with that. If you're going to a specialist, how is that specialist going to know how you can stand, lift, push, pull, crouch, remember, focus, finish things that you start, blah, 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 all of the RFC details? They can't. They can't because they are too limited in their scope of knowledge of medical treatment to give a full, general, all-encompassing why you can't work speech. Now, how do we go ahead and fight that? Well, we go to these other doctors that are on our side, the doctors that we send the claimants to and the claimants go to, and we give them these RFC letters. But most doctors won't fill them out anymore unless you pay them. And the bottom line is these RFC letters, they go ahead and fill them out. And once again, we have our doctors, which are not capable of knowing all these categories in a vocational setting. So what did the SSA do? They created a rule that said, wow, they're not medical experts. They have not been trained in the art of Social Security law and therefore cannot provide. Ken, act of kindness, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. He donated $5. Thank you. Hey, Shalom, very good. Very, very good. So what happens is this. Basically, you have the SSA creating an improper, unfair advantage. They are supposed to treasure the precious medical expert's opinion with greater weight than your doctor who's been seeing you significantly longer. And that medical expert trained in the art of vocational understanding can then assess you based on your multiple impairments as to how vocationally you are not able to do things. But your doctor, when they fill out an RFC, oh, it's not worth as much because they were not trained in the art of vocational understanding like the medical experts were. So if you're sitting there worrying, you should be. You should be. And the reason why is it's not a fair system. It's set up so that they have the power. They have the power to deny people, to stop the payments to people, etc. So what are ways around this? Well, you get the weight of their evidence reduced by going after every little aspect of them. And, you know, one of the things is that I tried to explain the full extent of this to a claimant one time. And it was a claimant that I would always explain stuff to her. And then her mom would get on the phone and scream at me about how it had to be this way. And this has to happen, yada, yada. And what I've realized is that some things I can teach you guys with, and then there's trial tactics here. Some things I can really help you guys with. And some things you just have to stand back and let me get it done. And the problem with that is that that's one of those things. Understanding how to beat a medical expert is an art in itself. It starts with where they practice, how many employees they have, how many times they see claimants that are not part of the SSA, how many years have they been with the SSA, how much money the SSA is paying them of the total amount of money that they actually get. There's all these little bullet points that you start building to destroy the evidence and weight of the evidence of the medical expert. But just remember, you better have good evidence on your side to back your disability because you can destroy their medical expert all day and all night. But if you do that, and then you have crap medical evidence on your side of the fence, what you've done is remove that evidence, and now we have that evidence that you have. So yes, you keep going to the doctor. But remember, at the end of the day, you have to actually be the disabled person at which you claim you are, that your medical doctors are going to say that you have. Now, there are things you can do when you go to the CE doctor. You can show them you on your worst day as the disabled person that you are. You can bring all your orthopedic devices. You can show all the limitations that you have, etc. But these doctors, they've got all these games to try and get you to act a certain way and do certain things. They'll grab your arm. They'll move your body. They'll push you forward. They'll move you back. They'll do all these things. Okay, can you lift your arm? They'll help you lift your arm. Okay, good. Can you move your leg? Can you lay back on the back? They talk quickly. They push you through it. You know why? They go down their little checklist. Degrees of movement, fine. Degrees of movement, fine. Degrees of movement, full, extent. There, done. I am excited about this person right here. This person right here represents the future of change, hopefully, for the Social Security Administration. And that is because Commissioner Saul ran the SSA like a for-profit company. He tried to find ways to reduce the likelihood of success of people being found disabled. Each person that was not found disabled was like a sale that would be made at a for-profit company, because instead of them making a sale, they just didn't have to pay out, which is the equivalent of essentially making a sale. And he applied that. How do we get less people applying? How do we get less people appealing? How do we get less people with successful arguments? That was Commissioner Saul's detail. And if you don't think so, then go look at 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Those were the death bells of disability benefits as we know them. So I hope that answered your question. Is there anything else I can help you with, good sir? Oh, do I have you on? Hold on. I might not have you on speakerphone. Hold on one moment. The speakerphone. There you go, good sir. One more time.
Well, I agree with everything you said, but, you know, I worry that the next president, if they appoint another similar person to Commissioner Saul, if everything Commissioner Saul did is going to just continue and possibly even jeopardize the medical improvement standard. I wonder if you think that's something to worry about. And do you think that at least currently we still have the medical improvement standard? Do you think that would help people to get through these CDRs? And also, given everything you just said, do you think there's going to be a lot more decreases in CDR approval rates compared to the relatively high rates that we've had for so long?
Yeah, oh, of course. You're seeing them right now. I get overpayment claims left and right where people call me, hey, I was kicked off of benefits, or I'm about to be kicked off of benefits. I have a hearing in a month. This is what they do. They set people up to receive their benefits throughout the process of trying to fight to keep their benefits. They get to a hearing. They go in front of the judge. The judge looks at the claim, and the judge goes, would you like to get an attorney? And they go, I don't know. And then the judge looks at them very sternly and goes, would you like to get an attorney? And that's supposed to be the thing to them that says, wake up, your claim is not prepared. It doesn't have the stuff that we need. It doesn't have the evidence submitted in here. It's not all, we don't know which way we're going with it. You don't know which way you're going with it. Would you like to get an attorney? Those happen every single day. The person then goes online, they find an attorney, they call the attorney, and they say, I don't know what to do. The attorney asks them, hey, are you still receiving your benefits? And they go, no, the judge cut them off a month ago. And then the attorney, and then most attorneys will say, I'm not going to represent you because there's not enough back pay. I take some of them because I feel bad for them, and then I'll rep them, and then they'll get, $500, $600 that goes to the attorney and, back pay, which is not worth it. It's just financially it's just not worth it in the sense of the short term. And what I mean by that, of it not making sense in the short term, is that it literally costs more to represent them than what we get out of the actual payment from the SSA. So my point to you is this. Yes, it's going on in a very massive and large way. The other problem is this. Let's say, so obviously we can say the former administration, former president, was not significantly for Social Security benefits in the sense of retirement, in the sense of disability benefits, etc. And what you need to understand is this. And guys, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm hitting the speaker button on the Nextiva phone app, and it just keeps kicking it off. We're going to be switching off of Nextiva and going to probably some other group. But bottom line is this: we're working through these phone problems. What you need to know is, and this is incredibly important, a force that would get far more votes than ever before seen would be the former administration heavily supporting the Social Security administration. That would be a hard thing to beat, because then you'd have all the people in the Social Security administration on board with boosts and increases, SSI Restoration Act, Social Security 2100 Act. If the prior administration supported that, then that would be massive. That would be huge. But we're not seeing that. We're not hearing that on Hannity, on Tucker. We're not hearing that from the prior administration now in the 2022 election cycle, the 2024 presidential election cycle. So what we're looking at here is essentially a problem. And the problem is, when is President Biden going to do something that is going to start pushing the agenda of heavily funding the trust fund account, lessening the poverty restrictions on SSI, getting rid of the 24-month Medicare rule, getting rid of the 5-month SSDI waiting rule. When are we going to see this stuff? This is basically his answer to that right here. I don't know, but I know this. I'm going to be there listening on Tuesday, November 9th, when she's getting that award. I want to hear what she has to say. It is tough for me to continuously watch politicians go ahead and promote the identity of how they're going to do all these things, and then they don't do shit. They don't do any of it. And I keep seeing that. And it's not that, a lot of people like to blame the Republicans. A lot of people like to blame the Democrats. It's both sides. They both have you fighting each other. And then the only ones who win out of it are the ones that are at the top that keep financially benefiting, which are the politicians. So my point to you would be, we are not seeing a lot of good movement and change with the current administration other than a new commissioner, which hasn't had enough time to make something happen. We need to wait and see what Commissioner KIJAKAZI is going to do, because she represents all the expectations that we want to see. Somebody who will hopefully promote and push the agenda of what we had prior to Commissioner Salt. Does that mean we're going to get that? No, we don't know. Nobody knows. I see some people being like, oh, we got a new commissioner. It's going to happen tomorrow. All those YouTube channels are full of fluff. That's what they are. So my point to you is this, and I think it's very incredibly important when you think about this. You are living in an era where if we continue to have the political party that we have, you will see these changes. But if it changes, 2022, 2023, 2024, you got 3.5 years. No, a little less. You got 3.5 years, and a little less than that, of this commissioner. But if you have a new administration come in, you better believe they're going to use the same ruling from the Supreme Court to terminate this individual and put in somebody else, likely a business person. So just understand, we either see it within the next 3 years of big changes, or it may never happen. And think about why. If it doesn't happen within the next 3 years, they've set in stone where they stand with what they want the disability and retirement programs to be. And we should not expect change from whoever is at the top of the totem pole. All right, good sir?
Okay.
Any additional questions for me, good sir?
The medical improvement standard, should we take any, is there any good news that if that's still there, would that protect people on disability even if they do go to the CE? I'm grasping for some good news.
So, okay. Do you want me to do like a full explanation as to what the medical improvement standard is? Do you want me to just go into like the outcome of it? What would you like me to go into?
Well, my understanding is that they can't take people off of benefits unless they demonstrate medical improvement. And I understand that standard has been in place since 1984. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just wondering if that would help protect people when they're going through a CDR despite this new 2017 law.
I'm going to answer you in a way that I think an attorney should. And then I'm going to answer you in the way that I think an attorney should actually do it. Number one, that rule is a very solid rule that they could not change. Shirley Benot, thank you so much for the donation. I really, really appreciate it. $2.99, guys. That's really helpful. These go to dog treats, just so you guys know. So here's the thing. Essentially what that rule comes down to is that when they look at the CDR analysis and they do their 8-step sequential process review, right? They go through each one of these little elements. If you have not gotten better, you get to stay with the disability benefits that you had. Now, let's say that again, but let's think about it from a, how do we battle this rule? How do we fight this rule? I am a disabled person, right? And actually I am. I'm registered with the ADA because my hand got crushed as a kid. But the bottom line is this. I'm a disabled person. I'm going to see doctors. My doctors have been seeing me for 5 years. Most doctors nowadays are concerned about insurance companies, are concerned about the worth of what they're doing for the patient, are concerned about retirement, what they're going to be doing, if they're going to get sued, what's going to happen. So I'm going to ask you, good sir, one very important thing. Do you feel that doctors would like to see in their diagnostic impression medical reports improvement on behalf of the claimant?
I'm sure that most doctors would definitely want to see improvement. And as a matter of fact, I remember some doctors saying they don't want to work with me anymore because they were getting flustered that I wasn't improving. And so I had to find another doctor. So you are right. It is sometimes hard to find the doctor who's patient enough to work with a person, even if the person is trying to improve, but they're not improving.
Mm-hmm. And how many doctors did you have to go through for that one impairment to find the one that would be understanding?
I've had to go to multiple doctors, actually.
Well, give me a number. 3, 4, 5?
Boy, it's hard to think of how many over the years, but I would say, several.
Okay, so 3 over what? Like a 10-year period?
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Okay. So how long were you with the doctor in that 10-year period that you actually liked?
Well, I mean, I would say that I've liked some doctors, but, the issue is I realize that you can't always stay with the same doctor. Doctors retire. Some doctors don't believe in continuation of treatment if we're talking about a mental health issue. If you ever want to move, you got to find new doctors where you're living. So, I think there's always the concern of, having an understanding medical provider.
Okay. So first off, element 1 of this problem is that doctors like to see improvement in the claimant. Otherwise, they don't like the claimant because the claimant is not something they can fix, and they're in the industry to fix people. That's why they're in medicine. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2. There are always new treatments coming out. And I don't just mean like, a machine. There's therapies, medications, surgeries, imaging, whatever. The imaging got better, but now it shows that your impairment's not as bad. There's always all these elements showing that medical improvement standard is potentially not as strong of a legal argument as it used to be. Because, all right, let me give you an example of this. Hepatitis C, right? 10 years ago, hepatitis C did not have a cure. Now, for the most part, it does have a cure. People used to be able to get onto disability benefits because of hepatitis C. What about the people now? Do you think that they as easily can stay on, keep disability benefits?
Good point.
So once again, it's a weakening of the medical improvement standard. And what I'm trying to show you here, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, and I know that a lot of you guys walk away from this stuff. It's like, oh, he's so down. He's not like Blind to Billionaire who's always so happy and exciting. I know that, but I'm not the guy that just delivers crap news to you in hopes that you like it, although that does get a lot of viewers, and maybe I'll do that one day. I mean, that guy makes a lot more money than I do. The point is, I give you the reality of experience of the problems of why you can't get around something, or if you can, how you have to spend all this extra time making a plan. So here's what you have to do. If you want to know how to do well out of CDR, which is what this is coming down to, right? That's the question you want to know, right? How do I do the best that I can on a CDR, right? Oh, okay. We lost you there. Oh, it's because somebody else is calling in. Sorry, guys. The Nextiva app takes them off speaker whenever somebody else calls in. So the bottom line here is this. If you want to do well on a CDR, you have to buy your records ahead of time, and you have to see where the problems are, meaning where they're saying you have improvement. You should be switching off the medication that you normally have every 6 months. You should be basically showing how it's not working and explaining, why you need a different medication, you need to modify, upgrade, whatever. You should be checking into orthopedic devices that could potentially assist you. You should be spending multiple days in a medical facility for the mental stuff, because that shows a lack of continuity of you getting better. And you basically should be doing things that continue to try and test the limits of medical technology that has come out to show that you have not gotten better from it. If you can do that and, continue in that fashion, you'll be okay. Nobody's really safe until they reach 60. Nobody's safe until they reach 60 with CDRs. But the bottom line is, when it comes to the medical improvement standard, there's a lot of things in there that make it an extremely weak argument. A lot of people will go, hey, I haven't really gotten better. But just think of it this way. Let's say you went to that doctor for whatever. Let's just say 10 years, right? You went to the doctor for 10 years. The problem inherent with that is that the moment they send you to their doctor is going to give a different opinion. The 2017 law is going to apply, and that other doctor is going to show that you might have improved significantly. And then you have a war of the experts, in which case your doctor originally with a significant amount of time would have won. But now as of January of 2017, unfortunately, no, that's no longer the case. And that is the great secret that you've brought forward, which is that the future of disability benefits is not going to be a long-term program. It's not going to be a check for the rest of your life. It's probably only going to be a check for 5 years, 10 years, not likely 15 years. And I even did a video on this where I explained the details about the problem with the disability system and that people don't realize. You're living through the last of the little bits of the golden era, which was 10 years ago. You're living through at this point, essentially, the last little bits before they cure all these problems that are out there. You will still have the choice to medically be as you are without going and getting the improvement, the surgery, etc. But the next rules that they're going to be doing with the Social Security Administration are probably, I don't know if KIJAKAZI would do this, but the new rules are probably going to be about forcing people to get certain types of medical treatment as part of their medical regimen while on Social Security disability benefits and using the Medicare and Medicaid system. Because if they have that and they show slight improvement, they'll have the opportunity to kick them off. So, all right, good sir.
Well, that is disappointing, but do you think that a person should deliberately get themselves hospitalized, even if the doctors haven't recommended it, in order to try to prevent this from happening?
I think you should do medically whatever your doctors prescribe to you as a means to basically make you, as medically well as you can be. Remember, you don't really know what's the best treatment for you because you're not a doctor. I'd like to say, oh yeah, you really know how to, but you're not. At the end of the day, yes, you know your body, yes, you know the pain, yes, you know this, yes, you know that, but you don't have the training essentially on what they know is the extent of whatever your impairment is. But people are getting smarter though. I'll give it to them that they do a lot of research, they do a lot of learning, they do a lot of things that are, in my opinion, really incredible. And as a result of that, they're taking everything a lot farther than they used to. And by and through that, they're becoming highly educated through the internet. Remember when the internet first came out, you had like basic stuff on it. You had, for example, like, kindergarten level writing. Now you have post-doctorate level writing that you can access on the internet. Current research articles about what they just figured out in a lab. The future of science is amazing. But realize, politics have now targeted through financial aid the output of science at every level. Used to just be like, hey, we want you to study gasoline, but we want you to stay away from lead studies. We just want you to study some other aspect of gasoline, right? Now it's at every level. They'll fund you only if you study the things that they're looking for, because that's what they're funding you for, to figure out this one thing. Doctors, unfortunately, are part of that science that can be manipulated through financial interest, which is why we go back to these CEME doctors, right? The medical experts, where 80% of their business is Social Security based, claimants coming from DDS. And then the other 20% will be workers' comp or VA or whatever. So my point to you is this. There are things for your specific impairments that you can do. But the only way you're really going to know how to do those is if you contact an attorney and ask them, based on your specific impairments, how to go ahead and show how you meet all the new listing requirements, how to watch out for the medical problems, and how to keep yourself within that, we call it the MIRS, but the medical improvement standard. And the bottom line is this. At the end of the day, the SSA is translating the disability program into full long-term lifetime benefits for people who are blind, amputated parts. But even those individuals, now they have technology where they can send signals to the eye. Now they have technology where they can regrow parts of the body. it's going to be 50 years since we've got the entire DNA sequence figured out at this point, where they can fix any aspect of your human existence, including making you younger age-wise than you actually are. So if you're planning on being on disability benefits for the next 40 years, realize at some point the cure for whatever is ailing you, whatever your disabling conditions might be, it'll exist, and it will be widely used, and you'll be expected to go back to work.
Yourself to go back to work, even if the doctors say you're not ready to. Do you think it would be too risky to do so, because perhaps that could trigger enhanced CDRs, more scrutiny, etc., compared to if you don't do that?
One of the best signs of evidence is a long history before the person became disabled of a singular job, right? Where they were doing it, they were getting promotions, they were going through it, that was their career. Judges love to see that. They love to see career people. Then, boom, something happens, they can't work anymore. They also like to see a couple of failed work attempts. They worked it for 3 months, they get fired. They worked it for 3 months, they get fired. If you do a couple of failed work attempts, it will help your claims, so long as you keep it under long-term SGA. So 3 months, you work it, you get fired, that's what they're looking for.
Okay.
All right. Perfect,
Sorry
good sir.
for being so inquisitive.
Yeah, hey, so good sir. I'm going to pop to the next caller. We had a few that we missed there. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, good sir. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so we missed a ton of phone calls there. Let me go ahead and go through this real quick. Hold on. Here's the next one. You guys know how this works. We call, we let it ring a couple times. Hopefully we can get the person on the phone, question, or run hearing questions. Those are the two options. Here we go. Let's see if we can get the person on the phone. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Please keep in mind to use a fake name. Also, would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you?
Yes, how you doing?
Good.
Good. I was calling, trying to find out. I know you had to work 10 years being on the job. And my question to you, do it have to be on the same job for 10 years? Could I have some job that I work 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, something like that, and add up over 10, 15 years?
Okay, so the way it works is they don't care how many jobs you work in there so long as you have enough quarters of coverage. So if you earn 4 quarters of coverage over a 5-year period for every single year, you'll have enough quarters of coverage for pretty much the year, for pretty much being covered, insured, having an insurance program far enough forward into the future on your timeline to insure you to go into SSDI benefits. So they don't care if you've had 20 jobs in 10 years. They just care that you've made enough money to get 4 quarters of coverage in, 5 of those years.
Right, because they took out money every job. Every job that I had, they always took money out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm having a problem by getting my Social Security because they telling me I had the time, but I should have been on one job. Now that's what they telling me. I should have did all the years that I have in the system. It should have been one job.
No, they don't have to be one job. Yeah. Let me walk you through how it works. The SSA reaches out to the IRS. The IRS sends the SSA 4 forms, usually just 3 to begin with, which is the certified earnings query, the summary earnings query, the detailed earnings query, and the new hire query. And basically, these documents show the SSA specifically how many quarters of coverage you have from working those jobs. Now, if you work 20 jobs where you're only working, a week at each one of those jobs, then, you might have enough quarters of coverage. But if you worked a job, went to another job, worked a job, went to another job, and you spent some time at these jobs, then it won't matter, because the quarters of coverage, it's based on, did you get enough of quarters of coverage over that period of time to keep you insured for SSDI benefits. So I don't know who's telling you that you should have all worked at the same job. Now there's a problem here that I see sometimes, and that's that somebody will work at one job, they'll switch to another job, and that new job will not report their income for taxes. And if you don't have your income reported for taxes, then you are SOL, because then they don't count any of those quarters of coverage because you didn't pay in money to the system. So that is one of those situations where they'll be like, oh, you should have stayed at that one job. Well, as long as you continue to work for jobs that, as you switched up jobs that were paying taxes, you're fine. But if you did some jobs that paid taxes, some jobs that didn't, then yeah, they're going to say, well, you should have stayed at that job that paid taxes.
No, the job that I worked at, most of them had, they also had unions. So every one of the jobs I worked at, they took out taxes. I never was at no job where they didn't take out no taxes. I worked at Ford, General Motor, and Chrysler. And so they took out, everything they're supposed to take it out. And so that's my thing. But I don't try everything that I know how. And I don't know what to do. Yeah. And so, and then now they're telling me it's been too long,
Oh, so you haven't worked. Yeah. So when was the last time that you worked a tax-paying job?
Sorry?
When was the last time that you worked a tax-paying job?
It's been a long time.
All right.
It's been a long time.
Well,
but see, like I put in for this years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, they shouldn't even matter if I put in for it. I've been had people to work on it, and then I always they take it so far and they go to the brick wall. I went for a year, the judge, cut me down, and I couldn't get back in to go there. I mean, it just messed up, and I'm not getting my full benefit. And I know they taking out the money. I know I paid my dues.
So here's what I would say. You got to remember, you got to have 20 quarters of coverage within the past 10 years. And it sounds like for the past 10 years, you haven't been working at these places, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So in that instance, you would not be eligible for SSDI benefits. You'd have to go on to SSI benefits.
So what now?
So here's the deal. If you don't work, recently, we call it the recency element, which is that within the past 10 years, you got to have 20 quarters of coverage. Well, if you haven't worked in the past 10 years, then you can't go on SSDI benefits, because here's what you need. You need enough quarters of coverage, and you need enough recently. The recently element is, did you have 20 quarters of coverage within the past 10 years? The do you have enough element is, do you have enough for your age in general? You could have earned more than enough way back in the day. You could have more than 40. But if you don't have 20, if you don't have 20 within the past 10 years, you're not going to go on SSDI benefits.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then he told me this. Last time I talked to him, he told me, he said, well, if you can prove that that if you work these minutes, work these hours, work these jobs, and then it don't make no difference how long it's been, I had my benefit coming. And so when I proved to them, and they still shot me down, Social Security doing this. And then because the way the case is, wasn't on the touch it. So my question, you answer my question that I want to know. I just want to know, did I have, because they had been telling me I had to work a job, the same job for 10 years. And I knew how is that, and if you're taking out money. You answered the question that I wanted to hear. So that's all I want. I know I probably can't do anything now, but you answered my question.
Absolutely, good sir. And this is the deal. If you want to go on to SSDI benefits, this is what you'll need to do. First, you got to know how much a quarter of coverage is in 2021. It's going to go up. It's right now $1,470. That's a lot. So you got to earn 4 of those per year, which means you got to earn basically $1,470 times 4, but it's going to go up next year. So let's just average it and say $1,600, right? That way we cover whatever. And you're going to need a total of 5 years of that. So every year you got to earn around $6,400. So if you earn around, remember it's more like 5,000 and change, but just for this, because it will go up over time. Let's just say $6,400, you'll be absolutely safe. If you earn $6,400 for the next 5 years, right, just doing junk jobs, then you will be able to go ahead and utilize those to get onto SSDI benefits. But that's what you need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I had to be, see, I'm getting disability now, but I'm not getting my full benefit. Now, what you saying that if I want to go back to work, and should I get cut off and just start back work 5 years to run it up?
So what I would do if I were you, I would find the most easy, simple, basic job that's out there. Earn your $6,400 on it. You don't need that much for 2021, but let's just use that as a safe amount. You would earn your $6,400, and then basically you do that for just a little bit in 1 year. Then you'd switch to a new job the next year. Then you switch to a new job the next year, and then basically you just earn that amount, and that'll keep you. If you earn under SGA, $1,310 per month. So let's say each month you earn, all right, well, let's take that. Let's do the actual mathematical calculation. Let me pull up a calculator real quick. Hold on. So let's say we got $6,400. We got to divide that by 12. That totals $533 a month. So if you earn $540 a month at a junk job, right, you're under SGA. And then basically you could potentially stay on SSI, although it would count a little bit against your SSI. It would take away some of your benefits even though you're earning. And you'd be able to still earn those quarters of coverage. You'd do that for 5 years, and then you'd switch over to SSDI benefits.
Oh, okay then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, good sir.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, good
appreciate
sir.
it.
You got to have a wonderful night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Same to you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Okay, so, all right, let's go to the next call real quick. Now, keep in mind, I am super tired. I was up till 2 a.m. as per the usual because, we all love to work nonstop. Here we go. Let's get the next one real quick. And boop, we're going to call the phone number. You guys know the deal. We let it ring a couple of times. We do a question. We run hearing questions. They use a fake name, and then we keep rolling. Oh. Okay, that person said currently. Oh, and they said, and now there's okay, perfect. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Please remember to use. Oh, I think it automatically hung up. Let me check here. This next Tiva, man. I don't know. Here it is. End accept. All right. Hi, we are. It's Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Please remember to use a fake name. Also, would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you? Go ahead.
Hello.
Howdy, good sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Great. I'm calling from Cebu in the Philippines.
Awesome.
It's wonderful weather.
Good.
I think I found a loophole with the third stimulus payment.
Okay.
And quickly, let me share this with you.
Okay.
Earlier this year in April, I received $4,200 from Social Security, ostensibly, but paid by IRS.
Okay.
I never received my own $1,400, but I received $4,200 from my children.
Mm-hmm.
Months go by, I still don't get $1,400. I send the IRS via FedEx a Form 3911 to track the status of my payment.
Mm-hmm.
Months go by, nothing. I call IRS on Thursday last week.
Mm-hmm.
They say, we've received your 3911. You're going to get $5,600 on the 1st, which I have not yet received.
Mm-hmm.
Called IRS yesterday on the 1st after business hours, and they said, yes, it's in our computer. You're to receive $5,600. So I have received $4,200 already for my children. They're going to double pay me. A previous operator said the two systems of IRS and Social Security do not talk to one another.
That's true. Correct.
You're going to most likely you're going to get a double payment. I said, fine, where do I send the $4,200 back to? I'm an honest man. I don't want to cheat the government. They said, there's no mechanism for us to receive your $4,200. Excuse me? So in other words, you're going to pay me almost $9,800 this calendar year, free money that I don't have to repay.
Well,
because the two systems don't talk.
Here's the thing. Yeah, they can
Go ahead.
receive payments for sure. I mean, anytime there's an overpayment and you want to pay them, they can receive payments. And remember this too: the IRS system does not talk directly and integrate with electronically with the SSA system. However, they made a lot of changes to it over the past couple of months so that they do talk more so about the lists, and financially everything's getting linked up. So what you'll probably get if you receive both of them is an overpayment amount, either from the IRS or the SSA, where you're going to have to pay back that amount. The only thing you're going to argue with them over is essentially whether or not there should be some sort of, percentage that you have to pay on top of it,
Okay. Can I ask one other question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. I took early retirement, Social Security at 63, and I'm getting money from each of my 3 kids. And I have a very good communication with my representative in Manila about SSA. They said when COLA kicks in, I get it, and each of the money that I get for each of my 3 kids will be increased. Question: the clickbait people, Blind to Billionaire, La La Late, whatever the heck that guy is, they all talk about you're going to get increase 1,000% up to the poverty level, or you're going to get $200 more a month. If that was true, would my children's amount each month also be increased?
It depends on which one passes. Okay, so what you're talking about is essentially all the legislation that these, let's call them, the blockbustery kind of sugar-coated YouTube channels are pushing. Each one of these things that these YouTube channel people are pushing are bills that lower-level Democrats are creating, Rashida Tlaib and things like that are like, hey, we want to give you $2,000 extra per month. Hey, we want to give you $200 per month. Hey, we want to give you $1,000 per month until the end of the COVID crisis. None of these bills are going to pass. But as they are written, most of them do have provisions to increase the benefits in a couple of ways. It's usually, to the 100% poverty level, to the 125% poverty level, to the 135% above poverty level amount. But none of these are going to pass as they come forward. And the reason why none of them are going to pass is that right now, the only way that they actually pass these big bills is if they shove all this information to a massive, hyper, mega nuclear-sized bill. And unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing that because it takes too many trillions to pay that much money out. And right now, what we're facing is not a surplus of how do we pay the American people more. What we're facing is not enough people are working and paying taxes to pay benefits situation where these systems are starting to run dry a little bit too fast for everybody's, satisfaction,
Well, again, you're going to pass a $3 trillion spending spree.
3.5.
By the Democrats.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, all right, 3.5.
Yeah.
In that, you're talking about 2 more, maybe stimulus payments going out of $1,400. All these wild ideas that are out there. The Social Security bills that are being pressed by the Democrats, if they go through, the question again is, I know my little $776 will be increased, but does that impact each of the money that I get for each of my 3 children?
Very likely. If they were to pass that, it would very likely not only be for your children, but for also recent immigrants that have been naturalized, disability little child benefits, widows benefits, survivor benefits, retirement benefits, etc., all the way across. Yes. Look, here's the thing. Here's where Republicans fall short. Republicans tend to be about promoting the idea of making middle-class people rich. And Democrats tend to be about the idea of taking care of the poor, the homeless, and getting them into the middle class. That's why we need both systems. it depends on which system's going to improve your, status from where you're at and where you want to go to. The bottom line is this: the Republicans, they are not putting enough energy and care into fixing Social Security. And let's be clear here. It may be the number one. It might be the number two. Number one might be the military to keep us safe so that we're alive. Okay, if that's true and that's number one, then definitely number two, which is that Social Security Administration. I mean, think about this. I was talking with a field office rep, a high up one, really high up one, working there for like 30 years the other day. And she said to me, imagine, people like to bitch, people like to complain, but imagine if we all disappeared at the field office. None of the checks go out. Imagine that. Imagine, if you will, that they were faced with zillions of people applying and they had to do a balancing test of quantity versus quality. Quality goes way down because there's tons of people applying right now, right? But you're right. At the end of the day, the Republicans, they have not supported Social Security in the way they should, which is ironic too, because it's tied to the idea as a safety net to pay for everybody in America. And the thing is this: people are starting to realize throwing people to the wolves does not make healthy employees. And if you want healthy employees, you have to get healthcare to those employees that is affordable. Otherwise, even like myself, I got to pay student loans before I pay for a lot of healthcare. I'll go sick before I, can't pay my student loans. So the problem we're running into is a system and problematic issue of, are we going to support the human race that are American citizens and stop doing all these stupid reaching out to other country military exercises that are pet projects? Or are we going to go ahead and fund the American people and create the most successful economy we've ever seen? That's the weird thing. It's the Republicans.
Okay,
well, go ahead.
Well, there's a middle ground to this, and that is I'm reading all the notes that people are writing here on the internet. And again, I'm in the Philippines, where the cost of living is a fraction of what Americans pay.
Sure.
I get $1,274 a month in Social Security, and if I was in Cleveland, I'd be eating cat food every day. Here, I live like a king as an expat, and I've been living outside of America for 20 years. I worked for the Beijing Olympic Committee in 2008. Oh, cool. All this other really great stuff.
Yeah.
People are whining and complaining they can't make it in America on the Social Security amount they have. People should seriously consider relocating to another country, be an expat, and live like a king on Social Security. Now, maybe that's not rah-rah America, but I'm proud to be in America, and I accept my Social Security through Wells Fargo direct deposit just fine. Every month, click, 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 and I love it. People, when they start to whine, that's when I want to slap them upside the head. I used to whine too until I said, you know what, I don't have to live like this anymore. I take my Social Security money, my expenses are at a minimum. I'm living on a tropical island in Cebu in the Philippines, and I pay zero taxes. I haven't paid taxes in forever. The Social Security that I'm getting is based on the 30 years that I previously worked. Now, living in the Philippines, I pay nothing.
Just don't run afoul, the 30-year rule or the 30-day rule and the 6-month rule. Because remember, when you're living abroad, unless there's an international agreement, you're not supposed to receive your benefits while, for that program while living abroad, because then they expect you to translate your naturalization of citizenship over to that other country. So just be careful with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I have residency in this country.
Yeah.
And permanent residency. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. What I'm suggesting is I've read so many of these people that are hurting, and I'm reading it right now on the 3rd of September on a Friday here in the Phil, and it's 9:49 a.m. And I'm reading about all these people whining and complaining, I can't make it, I can't do this. People need to be more creative in their lifestyle. I would never accept eating cat food in Cleveland, and made the move years ago. I got remarried, have 3 little kids, and I have residency in the Philippines. And the money I get from Social Security is a fortune out here. So I'm just leaving that with you as a suggestion. When people start whining at you, I can't make it, oh, please, government, please give me another $200, $300, whatever. They're not going to get it. We're not going to get an increase in Social Security except the COLA. It's going bankrupt in 10 years. take what you can get and get out.
And
Live
that's,
your life.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Share that.
The only kicker you run into is that the international agreements that are formed between the United States and other countries, some of them allow you to live over there, some of them don't. I'm not sure for that country, which is a beautiful, beautiful island nation, but I'm not sure if that country has provisions to allow you to live and receive there without violating the 30-day rule or the 6-month rule. But the point is this, and I can always look it up and check for you if you want. Just shoot me an email after this. But keep in mind, it takes me time to get a sec to review it and pull it up. But the bottom line is this: there are certain nations that people can move to and still receive their Social Security disability check or retirement check. The kicker is this, though: there are a lot of nations, most nations, that you can't. And the expectation is that you have to change over your naturalization to that new nation, become a citizen of the new nation, and then go into the disability program of that nation. And a lot of America and other countries have an international agreement where they will value, that you'll be able to use your quarters of coverage at that other country, in kind. But the bottom line here is this: it's one of those things where you'd have to check the international agreements between the U.S. and other countries. And I agree, you can live like a king in other countries, but just remember that country is going to catch up, because the more time goes by, it's going to get more and more expensive. So it is a plan and it is good, but as the dollar devalues, it becomes less of a good plan as we continue to have the economic, print money scheme that we've been doing. So it's good, but it might not be as good next year. Yeah.
Hyperinflation.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I want to get back into mainland China. I just got blocked out because of COVID.
Right.
Because I lived in China for 12 years during the Olympics and beyond. And for me, what I do, that's nirvana. That's Oz. That's the place I want to be. And I'm stuck in the Philippines because of COVID. But COVID will be over in a year. Everybody will be vaccinated enough, and I can get back.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love your show, and I love what you do for people. Don't ever think that you don't have a vast audience around the world. I may be a lone voice in the jungle of the Philippines, but I watch every single show you have, and you are brilliant.
Thank you,
Don't
good
ever
sir.
think people around the world are not watching you. They are. And you have a voice of advocacy that most don't have, and I applaud you every day. Thank you very much. I wake up in the middle of the morning, or 6 a.m. You're one of the first shows that I listen to. Yeah, I do the clickbait stuff, Blind to Billionaire and the rest. Yeah, sure. But you're the one who tells it straight, without any fluff. You're giving me the straight thing. Tell me more also in your shows about what these 3-point-whatever trillion dollars they want to spend. That's what I think people are really interested in when it comes to Social Security. Can they pass a correction to Social Security and give me $200 a month? I thought you need both parties, not just a resolution. Can they still do that?
So for Social Security-based passings, right, any bills that would become law, traditionally you need both parties to go ahead. You can't just do it like what they're doing with most of these things, which is just getting it through on the supermajority base, Democrats having, enough votes to just shove it through the process. But I just want to put this out there that if they really wanted to change that rule, they could probably find a way to do it. And, that's the thing too. Like if and you got to understand the main foundation, the pillars of what made me proud to be an attorney is looking at the highest, demigods version of my field, the Supreme Court justices, the hyper intelligent master beings of great knowledge and theory and analysis. And I've been reading their decisions, and there's a lot of politics in those decisions that I thought we were getting away from. And now all of a sudden we are ramming ourselves right back into it. And, look, here's the thing. I get it. They don't always want to have to decide something at the highest level of the Supreme Court. I get it. And I get it. Sometimes Justice Roberts wants to come by and be like, you know what? We're just going to throw this to the legislature and let them figure it out. And I get that. But still, people deserve their brains to be working and producing fruitful knowledge at the highest levels, because I will never have the skills of a Supreme Court justice. Those people are truly brilliant. They can memorize more than me. They can do analysis farther. They can play a chess game 20 steps into it and know which way it's going to go. But inherent with that, we're seeing more of the humanistic nature of a Supreme Court justice than we've ever seen in their fears and worries of the political climate that they're interacting with. You know, that's to me a problem, because I used to think of the Supreme Court kind of like Switzerland. They didn't care. They were neutral. They were going to think how they thought. They were going to do it that way. Some of them, they do that stuff. You know, like how they were treating Native American land. You know, how they were coming out with new laws about Native Americans and the land that was taken from them and all of that stuff. That was brilliant. That was great. They were supporting the base fundamentals of the nation and the original treaties that were created for those people. Awesome. Awesome. And then we get into all this political stuff, and it's like, did they kind of pass the torch? Did they not really sit down and figure? I pose this to all of you. Had they taken up the whole debacle situation of the election and the machines and the this and the that, we would have, as a people, been closer to finality, a closed book, a decision with full analysis than where we are right now. Because where we are right now is a district court judge is now sanctioning Trump's attorneys, but we don't have full analysis of nationwide. We just have for that state. And I think that they unfortunately took the easy road out of that whole, you know, busy city with, you know, turmoil and hatred and problems. I would have much preferred had they taken up the case and ended our questioning and been fair and brilliant, as they always are, usually, and given us what would be the clear direction. I remember talking with my professors from back in the day about it. I remember talking with some of the people that I consider, you know, highly knowledgeable, amazing people, and these attorneys were afraid of it. These are professors in New York, professors in New Jersey, professors in California, professors in Florida that study law, that teach law. They were afraid of the whole Trump, you know, claim. They wouldn't even want to touch it. They wouldn't even want to talk about it. To me, that is like treating that whole situation like Voldemort of the, you know, Harry Potter series. We shall not mention the name because it is so evil. The truth is, we have to look at it. We have to examine it and understand it. And right now, we don't have that. We have extremist biased news. All of them. They're terrible. You know?
Well, let me also say this is why we need your voice. We need your advocacy. Whether I'm in the Philippines or in Peoria, it doesn't matter. I watch everything you do, every video you put out, whatever relates to Social Security. The disability, not so much, I'll be honest. But everything to do with Social Security, you're the smartest guy in the room. Everybody else couldn't find a light bulb. In a living room, they couldn't find a switch. So thank you very much. I'm going to say goodbye from the Philippines, but thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day or not. I'm not sure what it is there, but that is an absolutely beautiful nation. If you do get a chance, send me an email with some pictures. So I'd love to see them. Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Excellent, guys. We're at 10 o'clock. I did see a notation in there. Looks like Rick Phillips said, I'm Native American, Walter. Be careful there. I am actually part Native American. I have some of the genetic features of them. I never got the full test, but there are unique dental features of Native Americans that essentially I share. So somewhere in my line, lineage, or whatever, there is that aspect. If you go study the Supreme Court, they recently handed over significant amounts of land to the Native American people because America signed a treaty that they then screwed over the Native Americans with. And the Supreme Court justice, go read about it, go check it out, said, no. America, we are going to value the Native Americans and we are going to give them what the treaty gave them. This is in great support of rights for Native Americans. Let's take a moment here. Out of all the different groups that got really put out with America's history, right? At the very top are Native Americans. They were enslaved. They were removed from their own land. They were basically murdered in mass attacks, constantly at war. And on top of that, they shared significant amounts with all American people, but mostly European heritage, right? They had it really good here before Europeans came over here. Now, you could say down the line, oh, now they have it better because they have casinos and this and that. Those aren't good arguments. Those are like, we're going to put a Band-Aid on it and maybe it'll be okay. It's still bleeding, though. Those aren't good arguments. So I just want to say specifically to the individual that, basically Rick Phillips, yeah, I am in full support of making sure Native Americans, and the sad thing too is, and I got to call her husband, she just passed away. I knew an individual who genetically by blood was more Native American than most people in America. She just passed away and was very, very sad. And unfortunately, very tough woman. But the heritage and the knowledge and the background is lost with each generation. And unfortunately, here's one thing I just want to give you guys before I pop off. Something that's personal to me. I've always loved lacrosse. It's a heritage that goes back to the Native Americans. The game is a little bit different now. There was a game at the highest levels of competition between a definitively Native American group and the best teams in America. The best team in America won. But the bottom line of this is not that the Native Americans lost. It is that a group of significant bloodline Native Americans were able to compete with every other bloodline's best person and almost beat them. That is incredible. Think of the power of the genetics of that. That's kind of like the Samoans when it comes to football. Think of the power of the genetics there, right? It's brilliant. And one thing we never talk about that we should talk about is race. We should be open about it and excited to talk about it. Talk about the things that we're afraid to talk about, because what you'll realize is that the person sitting across from you has so many unique things that could improve your life. And I'll never forget, I always get the best information from people who traditionally are not in roles of power. When we study in law school and we say the average human standard, right? The basic human standard, right? The standard by which we hold a person to when we adjudicate them in law. We call it like the cab driver standard, right? The cab driver's the standard, the low standard of the average American that we consider to be the person that which we consider the standard of how they should have acted, how they should have interacted in that situation. Well, I'll tell you this. I have had more cab drivers, right? A lot of them were African American, or they were of basically Arab background, come and say to me something while I'm sitting in the back of this cab trying to get to something that I got to do, that I had to do, that I didn't want to go to, but I had to do it anyways. They would say something to me and I wouldn't get it. I was too young. I just didn't know enough. I didn't get it. And then 10 years would go by, 5 years would go by, a year would go by, whatever. And it, boom, hit me in the head. It hit me in the head. I'd be outside working. It hit me in the head. I'd be thinking, holy crap. They get it. They got it. They understood it. I'm going to tell you one. I think I've said it before. So there was this African-American guy driving me in a cab. We were in New York. I had to go to something. I forget what it was, but I was younger. I was, I think it was in my early 20s. And bottom line is, he said to me, you know what the big difference is between the white kids that are the females, the daughters, and the black kids are the females of the daughters? He said the white parents, they get those kids a pet. And the black kids, they at a very young age will have a kid, a human kid. He said it more elegantly than that. But what he was saying was that the ability to raise a child requires significantly more energy, money, knowledge, experience than raising a pet. Raising a pet is kind of like simpler baby wheels, toddler wheels version of riding the motorcycle of raising a child. And he was saying that as a result of that, these kids would end up in different areas of life. I now look back on that and I think to myself, that was a cultural thing and geographic thing. That was specific to that area. And I now think back to it, I think things have changed. I think people have realized through YouTube, which is why I think YouTube's amazing, that there's ways to make lots of money, whether you're a parent or not. It costs time, it costs effort, it costs a little bit of money to start building that. This YouTube channel, just so you guys know, it made a lot of money, to me at least, last month. It made $3,100. This month, it's only going to make around $1,500 to $1,700. Just keep that in mind, those videos that are produced. Now, realizing The amount of time it takes to put into this at night to edit the videos, I could work at McDonald's and make more doing the amount of hours that I have to put into this. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. It depends on which month it is. But I want you to think about that. YouTube is the great equalizer of knowledge. How many of you have gotten this thing? Could be anything, a widget, whatever. You don't really know how it works. But you go online, you realize how it works, and now you're making money with it. How many of you guys have tried to look up a theory and said, I don't know how this really works. Let me see if I can get somebody to just teach me how the heck this thing works. People don't want to read. They want to watch YouTube because on YouTube, they can see charts. They can see what a presentation is. We don't need PowerPoint. We have the person right there animating everything. I guess what I want to say to you guys is in the future, it doesn't matter what race you're going to come from. YouTube is going to act as an equalizer for education. Cheyenne made some arguments to me about obtaining knowledge. I went through a structured system. The college education, 4 years. The master's in business, I was able to pull it off in a year, in a time when that was unheard of. Law school, postdoctorate stuff, all of that. I went through the structured system. I have significant student loans. 90% of the education that I received, I don't use. 100% of the education I received, I have to then pay for. If you're interested in something, no matter where you come from, no matter if you have kids or a pet, you have the skills now through YouTube to learn how to do that thing to make money. And I guess what I wanted to point out to you is this. Cultures are interconnecting now like they'd never connected before. And by and through that, we've now gotten to this place where it doesn't really matter as much where you come from, but what your dreams and aspirations of where you want to go will be. This is much better than what we had originally, which is a caste system of you're here, you will stay here, potentially you might only get the chance to move here. People will hate me for saying this, but only through a form of capitalism can people rise economically. But at the same time, we should not have politicians like we have, which spend all that tax money on pet projects, thereby reducing the amount of money invested back into the American people and strangling the American people with higher tax rates. If you want to make the system work, you cut out the fluff and you reinvest back into the people. You get them healthy, you get them well-funded, you get them happy so that they want more. If they want more, they're going to work hard and innovate. If they innovate, they will be the number one competitors in the nation against other countries that are trying to beat America. Other countries have a problem, and that's because their cultures are not intermingled. It's usually a heavily solidified singular culture, right? Japan, a singular culture. China, a singular culture. America doesn't have that. America's all these cultures from all over the place. And that is the beauty of why we tend to be the most successful nation. It is because we have a lot of different brains that approach things in a lot of different ways. And that is the only way to have hyper innovation. Anyways, guys, I hope that, I hope that essentially this helped you out at all. I hope that we can go forward from here. I really appreciate you watching the show. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. I will be making more videos specifically about the future of things that are coming up, and we'll go through it. And keep remembering this. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We almost certainly will be getting a for everybody increase stimulus. And that is because the political system wants 2022 to be a success for either the left or the right. They're going to buy into you. They're going to invest into you. And think of it this way. Why is California releasing all these funds that the federal government just paid to them to try and make them whole again from the losses that they had from COVID? Well, it's not because California makes lots of money. It's because the federal government gave them lots of money, and now they're redistributing that money to the people so that they'll make the people happy, so that they'll keep the current political leadership. America in general, as a federal government, is going to do the exact same thing. They are going to buy your interest in keeping what is already in existence. I'll catch you guys a little bit later. Have an absolutely wonderful night. Thank you so much. we'll go from there. Bye-bye.